In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to install an Artisan metallic epoxy floor. Now, the Artisan series of floors provides you with creative freedom not achievable in any other system. As you can see, there's just a different pattern, a different look, there's different detail that is produced with this series of floor. There's a number of steps involved in putting down this floor, and we're going to show you exactly how to do it. All right, since we've already gone ahead and done all of our prep work and we've already got the floor primed, we're ready to go ahead and start our mixing of our metallic epoxy undercoat. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to mix up a 1.5 gallon batch. And again, the space that we're working on here is about 200 square feet. That's the maximum square footage that we want to do per 3-gallon kit. We're going to use a 1.5 gallons as our metallic undercoat. And then we're going to use a 1.5 gallons as our accent coats on top. So right now we're going to mix up that first 1.5 gallons of the metallic batch. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take 1 gallon of our A. Since it's a 2-to-1 mix, we're going to have 1 gallon of our A. And then we're going to add some of our silver metallic pigment to that. So this is a 16-ounce jar of metallic pigment. We're going to use about half the jar. It doesn't have to be exact, but we'll pour in about half of the jar here. Something like that should be fine. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix this up really well for a number of minutes here. Now, normally you would not be mixing this on your work surface because you can see what just happened here. We got some of the pigment that's gotten onto the surface, and I'm going to have to wipe off now. Normally you would be mixing this off to the side somewhere in an area that's designated as a mixing station for this purpose so that you avoid things like that. But for demonstration purposes in this video, we're doing it here in the open. But we're just going to mix this silver metallic pigment in here with a drill and a paddle at a moderate speed for a few minutes, just to make sure that everything is well dissolved in there. Now, this is a step that you could do well in advance. You could go ahead if you're doing a much larger floor using multiple kits of the epoxy. You could prepare all of your A components with the metallic pigment so that you don't have to do it for each batch. But because we're only going to be using one 3-gallon kit for this whole demonstration area, we're doing it at this stage. And of course, on our website we have all kinds of videos that talk about pre-mixing of the pigments, how to mix the two components of the metallic system together. So there's a lot of information that's available to you. So we'll continue to mix this up until we're really satisfied that it's thoroughly mixed in there. All right, so that should be good. Now I'm going to get my B component, which is the hardener, and I'm going to add the proper amount. So it's a 2-to-1 mix. So we've added 1 gallon of our A. That means I need to add a 1/2 gallon of the B hardener to this mix. So I'll go ahead and put that in. That brings us right to there. And now I want to thoroughly combine this A and the B together. So we'll do that for a couple minutes.
All right, and I think that is mixed just how we want it. So I have my spike shoes ready. I have my magic trowel ready. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to clean up this spot here. I'm going to grab a rag with some denatured alcohol. I'm going to wipe up the spill that we created here with the pigments, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this silver metallic epoxy down on the floor. All right, so we've got our 1.5 gallons of our metallic silver undercoat mixed. So we're going to go ahead and just pour that out onto our surface here. And again, just like any regular metallic system that we have, we're going to basically install this and pour it onto the floor the same way. The only exception is that we're not going to use a roller. We're not going to back roll this floor. We're only going to use our magic trowel to spread it around. And the reason for that is that we're doing this 200 square feet just with a 3-gallon kit. The rollers soak up a lot of the epoxy. Sometimes you can get a 1/4 gallon off of a roller cover. We want to make sure that all of this epoxy stays just on the floor for what we're doing here today. So we're going to go ahead and just use the magic trowel. And again, it's really easy to do, actually, without having to back roll. So we can start off by just getting some right close to our edges. And again, this undercoat really is just a thin coat that's going to help our accent colors a little bit later on move into place. Now, speaking of that, this really is a 2-person job, this system that we're doing here today. So I have somebody helping me. They're actually already off to the side, and they're mixing up the accent colors as we speak, getting them ready. So that way, when I have the undercoat down, they're going to be able to hand me the accent colors right away so I can start putting those down. So they're mixing them up as we speak, and we'll cut over to that here in a little bit, and we'll give you a thorough explanation of how to mix up all of our accent colors. But for now, we're just going to continue on with our magic trowel, spreading out our silver metallic epoxy. Again, it's a thin coat here, so we're using this 1.5 gallons, and we're going to cover the 200 square feet here with it. And that's how, when we get done with this floor, you're really going to see what an incredible look we're able to produce, really at a low price point, due to the fact that we're not using a lot of extra material in order to create this really unique look on the surface. So it's just giving you an option between what perhaps our regular Metallica system might be able to produce for you, as opposed to something that's really a little bit more decorative, a little bit more of a marbly stone, natural type look on the floor that you just can't get out of a regular metallic epoxy system, not with the amount of detail that we're going to be able to create here. So again, we'll just go ahead and finish this up. It doesn't take long, and again, we're working as a team. I'm spreading the base coat here while my helper is preparing all of our accent colors in the cups.
Now, since we've chosen not to use a roller on this floor, we still do want to make sure that we get our base coat all the way up against the wall so that we get a really nice finished look when we're done. The way we do that is just by taking the magic trowel. You can see here where there's a little gap up against the wall. I can place it there and I can move it right into place. So it's just as easy to do this as it is to set up a edge roller. Now you can do that if you want to, but for me, I'm able to just go around the wall as I go and use my magic trowel to put it into place. Now, one thing of note, you'll notice my technique with the magic trowel. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use the magic trowel. One would be this way, where the blade is pointing down on an angle this way. I'm using it this way, so you can see the difference on the edge that I'm using. If you use it this way, it tends to want to pull a whole lot more material. If you use it kind of upside down, it tends to not pull as much and it leaves more on the surface. So that's what we're going for there. And the reason for that is this undercoat here, or base coat of metallic, it's going to really kind of almost be like a carrier for the accent colors that we're going to put on top. So while we don't need a thick coat of this, we do need enough volume to get the next coats to be able to move onto the floor. All right, so this wraps it up here. You can see that that was not difficult at all. Didn't take very long. You can also see that while I've been doing this, my helper has been preparing all of the cups of the accent color. So I'm ready for them now. So I'm going to go ahead and get the squeegee out of the way, and I'm going to go grab the first cups of the other colors, and we're going to start applying them to the floor. All right, so this is the mixing procedure taking place for our accent colors. Now we have all the pigments here in the different colors for this combination. We're using a shade of gray, a silver color, and also a white. And these pigments are designed to work perfectly with the metallic system. So what we're doing here is the end result that we're going for is having these three different colors layered in cups that we will then apply to the floor. But the way that we're doing that is we're adding about an ounce or so of the pigment into cups. We're going to do 12 cups in total for this 200 square foot area, but we're breaking it down in two different pours, two different batches. So we're going to do 6 cups first, And then we'll come back and we'll have another 6 cups mixed. That way we have 12 cups in total for our 200 square foot area. Now these cups are about 16 ounces each. They're just plastic cups you can get at Costco or Sam's Club or anywhere. So we're adding in now the white pigment into the cups, as you can see. This kind of just speeds up the process, if you will, by having the pigment already in the cups for us. So we got them all laid out. And we're going to use our same epoxy that's going down on the floor right now with the silver metallic in it. It's the same metallic epoxy. So we had 1.5 gallons that's being applied to the floor right now as our base coat. And we're going to use another 1.5 gallons for our accent colors. But again, you remember we're splitting that into 2 pours. So 1.5 gallons divided by 2 would bring us to 96 ounces. So we're going to mix up a 96 ounce batch of epoxy for these accent cups. Now in theory, you can mix up any amount that you want. We're showing you doing 6 cups using 16 ounce cups. 6 times 16 is 96. So that's how we get to the 96 ounces that we're mixing up right now. So again, it's the same as we did for the metallic base coat. It's 2 to 1. So we've got 64 ounces of our A, and we've got 32 ounces of our B hardener that just went into the bucket. We're going to mix it exactly the same way with a drill and a paddle. And we're doing it at a nice moderate speed. So we do strongly recommend that for this system you have at least 2 people. One person right now is putting down the base coat, and we have another person that's mixing up all of the accent colors and getting them ready to hand off to the person that's out on the floor right now putting down the base color. 3 people would be even more ideal, but we recommend a minimum of 2 people for this process. So there we have our A and our B mixed in this small 96 ounce batch. We have our pigments already mixed in our cups. So we're going to take 2 white, 2 of our silver, and then we're going to grab 2 of our third shade here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that mixed batch of 96 ounces and we're going to pour that into these 6 cups. Remember, we're doing 12 cups total for this 200 square feet, but we're breaking that in half. So we're doing 6 cups right now. So you see he's getting it in there, getting it right up to our 16 ounce mark. Again, it's not a critical mark, but we're just trying to get them as evenly poured as possible. So we pour that right in there. You can see that's up to that 16 ounce mark. Continue on for our 6 cups, and if we've done this right, he should be able to get that last 16 ounces in there, which we did no problem. There's a little extra in there, so what we could do is we could actually go ahead and top off those cups if we want to, or we can just leave that as a little excess for right now. But now he's mixing this by hand to mix up the pigment into the epoxy. We don't need to use the drill and the paddle at this stage because we've already done that. This epoxy that's in these cups is already mixed. Now we're just mixing our pigment in with it. And because it's such a small batch, we're able to do this by hand with basically a popsicle stick. So there's our first one mixed. You can see it mixes up real easy. We'll go ahead and get that second one mixed in there. then we'll just move on to the other 4 remaining cups. Here's our silver. Again, we're doing about 30 seconds or so on these cups. That's all it needs to mix up. Again, we're not really mixing the epoxy per se, because that's already been done with the drill and paddle. We're just mixing the pigment into these cups of epoxy. So this is the very reason why we're recommending this be at least a 2-person job, because as you can see, the base coat's going down. This is a bit of a time-consuming process. It's going to take us probably 10 minutes or so, close to it, maybe 8 to 10 minutes to mix up each of these 6 cups in their entirety from start to finish, doing the whole process. So while this is being done, other parts of the floor are being installed, whether it be the base coat or whether it be other cups of mixed layered epoxy going down. So we really recommend having that one designated person to just be at a mixing station, mixing and preparing these cups of epoxy. So here's our last cup, our 6th cup for this first batch that's being mixed. So far, fairly easy process. We've used a little bit of math to determine how much we need. We've mixed the 6 cups here. Now, you remember we had a little bit left over. So what ended up happening was when he poured the epoxy originally into these cups, it really wasn't 16 ounces. So we had a little left over. So now what we're doing is we're just using that remaining epoxy. We're just kind of topping off the cups here, if you will. And again, it doesn't need any more mixing because we've already gone ahead and mixed the epoxy in the bucket. So he's working with mixed epoxy already. Okay, so here we go. We've got our 6 different cups, 2 white, 2 silver, and 2 of our dark gray. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take those 6 cups, we're going to transfer them into another 6 cups to give us our layered cups. So we're going to start off with the white, and you can see we're just putting a little layer into each cup. There's no exact amount. Just remember the object here is we're getting multiple layers of these colors in these cups. So here's our silver, same thing, another layer. You can see what happens when it's poured into the cups. You can actually see the definition of the color, the separation. That's beautiful. That's exactly what we're going for. And then we're going to go here with our 3rd color. Nice. And they're all creating different shades in the cups. So this process just gets repeated until all of the material is out of our first 6 cups into our cups with our final batch in it. So again, you see clearly the reason why we're really recommending having 2 people do this. One person's working out on our floor, and the other person is at a mixing station getting all of our cups ready. And it actually looks like we're really close to getting our base coat covered on the floor. So this is actually going to end up being perfect timing here. So again, we're pouring a few ounces at a time per layer. Now again, we are working with epoxy. We're working with mixed epoxy. Once the A and the B is combined in epoxy, the clock starts to tick. The curing process has begun, and we are on the clock. So while we don't need to panic and rush and create a mess here, we do want to be mindful that we are on the clock. And so we are pouring this and getting this ready at a pretty decent pace so that the epoxy doesn't start setting up in these cups. So this epoxy has been designed with ample working time. If you find that this has started to set up in the cups and it starts by getting hot, it starts smoking, and then it will actually set in the cups, if you find you've gotten to that point, it's because you didn't prepare these quick enough. So you can see this so far has taken about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. So that's still giving us enough working time. But you start getting much longer than that, you're going to end up with a problem. So again, this works every time if we mix it correctly. If we don't do it quick enough, then we're probably going to be in for a problem. So we're just finishing up the last bit of our dark charcoal gray here. And it looks like we're ready for it actually over on the floor. So that ended up being perfect timing. Again, the value and benefit of having somebody designated to just mix these pigments. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to hand off these first cups to the installer out on the floor, and we're going to show you how that process takes place. All right, so perfect timing. We just got the base coat down. Took about 15 minutes or so, and that's about the time it took for my helper over there to be able to mix up our layered epoxy. So you see that this looks really cool in the cup. So the overall look that we're going for here is various shades of grays. We're going to install it by pouring it onto a drywall knife. Now, there's all different sizes of drywall knives that are available. From very small to very large ones, I think 24-inch ones. This happens to be a 10-inch one, which seems to be a really good size. But the application is very simple. We're going to pour out some beads of it onto the blade, and then we're going to let that drift off of the blade onto the floor. Pour another bead. Let it fall out onto the floor. Now you can see that as it falls onto the floor, you can see we got some like large veins starting. We've also got drops of it on the floor. That's exactly the look that we're going for here. Those are all going to continue to flow and expand in this base coat. So my job here with these cups is just to get it out onto the floor. So again, we're going to use 12 cups total. I've got the first 6 ready. My helper is already starting to mix the second set of 6 cups, exactly the same as he did these ones. So that gives me time now to go ahead and pour these out onto the floor. I'm going to take the first 6 cups and cover the whole entire 200 square feet section. There are different ways that you could do it. Knowing that there's another 6 cups coming, you could focus just on the first half right now and get it done, and then use the next 6 cups to do the second half. I like to take my first 6 cups, cover the whole 200 square feet, come back with the next 6 cups, and it's almost like putting on another coat onto the floor again. So we'll just continue this over here. Now, normally, if this was a real project in your home or place of business, or you doing a job for someone, we would have plastic up on the walls so that we don't get anything on the walls. But you can see, even pouring it, it's actually pretty controlled. You can see I'm letting it drip out of the cup too. Perfect. Let me go grab the next cup. All All right, so same process. Pour onto the blade, pour it out onto the floor. Onto the blade, out onto the floor. And I'm doing kind of about what my arm will reach. And again, when you pour it off of the blade like this, it really creates a real natural veining look. There are some techniques out there that would have you have a container with some kind of a stick, a popsicle stick or something, trying to mimic nature. We feel that doing this process here, it does it naturally for you. And again, in my head, I know that I've got 6 cups that I need to cover this whole space with, so I kind of proportion it out. All right, there's 2 cups, 4 to go. Okay, there's 3. Let me kind of go back over here to the area where I started. This is bare here, so we'll add some in this area. Some more here. You can see you kind of just get into a little rhythm with this. And even after pouring it, you can see in these cups where there's still some nice separation and definition of the different shades. So again, this combination here is going to give us a real subtle vein patterning and some different subtle shades. We have other combinations where you've got a much more bold color in it, and then you can also create any of your own combinations as well. All right, nice. Grab another cup. And let me add some up here. Okay, we're down to our 6th cup. Now, you can kind of see this whole floor developing here. Of course, we're nowhere near completion as far as the amount that this epoxy is going to continue to move, but you can kind of start seeing the idea that we're going for here with this just real natural looking design here that, I mean, really, this is hard to duplicate with any other type of installation technique. You could try, again, doing all this by hand with a roller, swirling, or popsicle sticks and things like that. On a floor area like this, you're just not going to be able to get this look without doing this technique with these products. So this is a really, really beautiful and natural looking epoxy floor. Okay, so that's halfway. That's our silver metallic base coat down on the floor, and that's our first 6 accent cups that are down on the floor. We've got another 6 that are being prepared right now that are just about finished. Let me go ahead and grab those, and we're going to continue on adding the next 6. So this is 6 cups that are down. Now my other 6 cups are just ready now, but you can see already like some of the really cool things we got going on here, almost like cells and things like that. You can see the definite like veins here. So again, just a really, really cool technique that's giving us something that's way different than just what our regular designer metallic epoxy floor system can achieve. While those floors give you an overall look of some swirling and different color variations, this system here is really giving you a lot of detail that you're just not going to get in a regular metallic system. All right, so here we go. We're going to get the next 6 cups down. Same process. Now this time I'm going to be mindful of any areas that I see that are lacking color, and I'll give a little bit of extra attention to that. So some areas that I might have maybe missed on that first coat. So you can see how that epoxy just falls right off the blade. You can see when it's on the blade, all of the different shades of color. That's going to transfer out onto the floor. Just a couple of little things to keep in mind. It's obvious that I'm walking on this in spike shoes. I'm being very mindful to lift my feet as opposed to not dragging my feet. That way we're not getting any drag marks from the spikes. We're getting little tiny holes from the bottom of the spikes, but those are filling back in because this epoxy is so fluid. Now what happens, let's say, if we do drag? Like, let's say we get a little drag mark like that. You can see that on the floor. There's a chance that that may not cover up. So the way I'm going to fix that right now is I'm going to pour a little bit of epoxy on the blade, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to make sure that I'm filling those marks in just like that. Give that a couple minutes and you'll never know that that ever happened. So it's fixable, but we're just going to try to avoid doing that if at all possible. All right, so here we go. Here's our second cup out of this batch here, and I'm going to add some more up the middle here. Technique is really up to you. What I'm doing on this particular floor is I'm pretty much going all in one direction, but you can get as creative as you want by doing arcs and swirls and doing diagonals, and you can pour it in all different directions to give you whatever look that you want. I'm going to stick with just going all in the same direction here, as if this floor is going to become just one giant slab of natural stone. I don't know if you heard that, but that was a big puddle that fell off the blade right in this one spot. So it's created this really big puddle right here. We're not intentionally trying to do that, but if that happens, it's okay. That's actually going to all kind of fan out and blend in with the rest of the floor, but that was just a result of me not paying attention and dumping the blade too sharply. So So we'll just continue up. Here's a whole spot right here. Looks like I missed on the first round. And some more areas up against the wall here. So we'll just add a little bit in there. No problem. All right, and again, I'm letting everything drip out of the cup. All right, 4 cups to go. We talked a second ago about dragging our spike shoes and creating marks. I did it right here, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. So again, I'm pouring a little on the blade. You see the marks there? And we're going to go ahead and just make sure we fill a little bit in there. Done. What a great system, though, for getting a much different look than just regular metallic, giving us really much more of a stone type look out of the floor. And the beauty of this system, really, at the end of the day, we're not using any more epoxy than we would if we were doing just a regular metallic epoxy floor. And we've got a little bit extra in the pigments that we're using, because we're using, remember, we use metallic pigments as part of the base, and then we're using our pigments to pigment the cups. But other than that, it's costing us the same to do a floor like this as opposed to one of our regular metallic epoxy floors. So it's just another option that you have in doing a full epoxy resin floor. All right, so we're probably coming up on about 30 minutes or so now from when we started, which is putting us right where we want to be for 200 square feet. So if we maintain that pace throughout a larger project of doing 200 square feet in about 30 to 40 minutes, we'd be doing just fantastic. So again, I'm letting this drip out of the cup. And we got 2 cups to go. Now again, the design is totally up to you. We've got some pre-made combinations that we like. You can select from one of those, or you can really create your own combination based on some things that you see on our website. But what we really like about some of these combinations here, like this, is that the colors really work well together. We don't have any extreme colors here. We've got various shades of grays that we've created that really match and blend well with our silver metallic base coat. But that's kind of the beauty of this, is that you can create your own combos. And if you wanted to, say, on something like this, substitute maybe that darker charcoal gray that we use for maybe orange or blue or something like that, then that's the creative freedom that you have for a system like this. So it's kind of the beauty of it. All right, so we're down to our last cup for this 200 square feet here. So kind of what I'm doing as I'm going for the cup is looking around and seeing, are there really any areas that are just really standing out here that are looking a little bit bare or not filled in with the other colors. I actually don't see any areas on this floor, so I think I've done a pretty good job of covering the floor. So I'm just going to randomly now use this last cup and spread it in just random places all over the floor. All right, so this has worked out really well. This took a little bit of teamwork. While I was working the epoxy out on the floor, I had someone helping me that was doing all of the mixing, and that teamwork really allowed me to be able to get the base coat and then the subsequent accent colors out onto the floor without any issues or worries of the epoxy setting up on me and me not having enough time. This is going to now need to cure overnight, so we're going to let the floor do that. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll show you the final result, and then we'll talk about top coat options. All right, so we're back here at our Artisan metallic epoxy floor, and as you can see, the results are outstanding. Of course, we started off with our base coat of our silver metallic that we applied with the magic trowel, and then we added those layers of accent colors on top of it. We used 2 different shades of gray and we used white, and it produced this really just unique look to the floor. You can see we have all different shades and tones. We've got some real definition in the veining, as well as some other highlights throughout the floor. So with a little bit of prep and some thought, a 2-man system, we were able to accomplish this floor. Now, we could leave the floor as is right now, but we do recommend our high-wear urethane top coat, which you can put down in either a gloss, semi-gloss, or satin finish. We have a description or a link in the description below that you can go to see the urethane being mixed and applied. So I encourage you to check that out. But this floor turned out really nice. We have various colors available, and we have more information available on our website as well at www.epoxyplus.com. Thanks for watching.